Democrats' $1.9 trillion COVID bill spending package, also known as the American Rescue Plan, heads to the White House, where it will be signed by President Biden in a few minutes. The bill passed Congress with no GOP support. Republicans say the legislation is jam-packed with a liberal wish list of progressive items. $350 billion went to bail out blue states like New York and California. $270 million in relief to the arts and cultural organizations. $50 million to Planned Parenthood. Democrats themselves have even dubbed the bill as the most progressive piece of legislation in history. Progressive, consequential. You can understand why guys like Pennsylvania Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, a member of the House Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committee, is very nervous about this bill. Congressman, great to see you as always.
John, likewise. Thanks for having me on. And please just call me Guy.
Okay.
You know, this bill, thanks, John. You know, this bill, what's so shocking about it is that we still have $1 trillion set aside that is yet to be distributed from the COVID relief packages that passed last summer and into the fall. And remember, those packages were bipartisan. The Democrats this time around ignored the fact that we had this $1 trillion that was still to be distributed. They also went forward without any kind of support from Republicans. It's almost like they went out of their way to make this as divisive as possible, so no Republicans would join on to it. And I know you were talking about the bailouts, the blue states, the money for Planned Parenthood, but remember, there's a lot more to this. There's taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants. You have a fund, the EPA, going to, the Democrats are calling it environmental justice, which means, which in Republican speak means that they're going to go after oil and gas companies and the job creators in places like southwestern Pennsylvania, where I represent. So, and also only 9% of this bill, only 9% actually goes to fighting COVID. Why was that not brought out? And additionally, you know, the bailouts to the blue states, just to put this in perspective, California has a budget surplus.
Right.
They don't need bailed out. And the ones that do, the states and municipalities that do need bailed out, they've had budget issues well before COVID. This is nothing new. And they made the situation worse by the draconian lockdown orders that crush small businesses.
It is rewarding bad behavior, and that's part of the design of this bill. You know, it's also funny and kind of a sad thing at the same time to look at the polling here on this bill. One morning Consult political poll found that 59% of Republicans are somewhat supportive of this bill. But, you know, people are supportive of COVID relief. People are supportive of helping out people who are in trouble. But, Guy, you know, nobody's in support, or no Republicans are in support of, you know, Planned Parenthood getting $50 million. They didn't ask people that question. Are you okay with illegal immigrants getting free health care while you have to pay for it? Those weren't the questions these pollsters asked.
Exactly. A lot of the polling questions will be, do you support more relief from COVID? Well, of course, people think that individuals that are suffering should get more stimulus.
Just like
payments,
I support
right?
environmental justice for the polar bears, right? But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about canceling jobs for people working on the Keystone XL pipeline.
Exactly. And there are two other points to take away. When it's in a big omnibus package like this, and I know omnibus is a term of art, but when it's in a big package like this, it makes it very difficult to message and for people to understand exactly what's in it. Additionally, it's very hard to explain to somebody in context the meanings of this moving forward in terms of the economic stagnation that we're going to have. Because we have such a big package, we're talking about COVID relief on the scale of an amount that's the same as our GDP. This package, if you add it all together, and I'm talking collectively all the packages over the summer, it exceeds all the GDPs of all the other nations in the world except the United States and communist China. I don't think a lot of individuals, the average American, realizes that this means that we're going to have higher interest rates moving forward, which will lead to economic stagnation. That is, especially people on fixed incomes, it's very hard to capture that when you're doing a poll.
Right, exactly. You know, the term omnibus for people who are, you know, uninitiated to the kind of workings of Congress. I grew up in Atlanta, Guy, and we had this thing called the Omni, which was the arena back then. I just tell people, picture something that big, stuffed with pork, pigs, you know, this kind of the spending on a bus rolling down that road that you guys always talk about kicking the can down because the deficit and debt just keep getting bigger and bigger. That's the visual people should keep in mind. A giant arena stuffed with pork. That's going to cost us all a lot more money down the road.
Don't be surprised if I steal that analogy from you, John. That's really good.
I'm
You know,
here
I
to
always call it
serve
the
and help you out, guy, with that type of,
Thank you.
we talk about this all the time, and I don't mean this, as a negative on you, but the Republican Party does have a problem with messaging on this stuff. Nancy Pelosi is out there saying this is going to help babies, but and I know it's going to also hurt those babies when they have to pay for this stuff 20, 30 years from now.
Well, remember, deficits are nothing more than taxes on future generations. That's all a deficit is. And sadly, we have all this debt, we're running these deficits, and at some point somebody has to pay for it, and it will be paid in the future by economic stagnation. Hopefully we can turn things around in 2022 when we take back the House and the Senate. But for now, we've got this package that came through in a very partisan way. It's also interesting to note how the Democrats were lecturing Republicans about unity and bipartisanship.
Yeah.
And the second they had a chance to work together with us, they chose not to and ran this partisan bill.
Yep, they rammed it down America's throat. They call it the COVID relief bill, the Recovery Act, whatever you want to call it. I call it rice-a-roni, the San Francisco treat for Nancy Pelosi and all those blue states. Congressman Rettenthaler, great to see you, Guy. We'll talk
Thanks, John.
soon.
Take care.